chapter 9. We're in chapter 9, guys, and it's called The Sun, and it's essentially the power of perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think just in general, to encapsulate this whole book, for me, it's really giving a new sense of perspective. And I think this is a great chapter to close it off, because the way that you present it is to give you another option or options, right? Can you talk about the calm after the storm?
Yeah. Thank you. We just came out of what's called battling adversity. So the book is broken out in 4 parts, beginning the course, with the team, and then battling adversity. And this one's beginning your journey. And so it's really like, hey, got everybody on board. You get to hear, these kind of things. But if you recall, we had the storm, snake, and smoke. But there's always the sun that comes out after a storm, And so I thought this was important to say, okay, these are the categories of adversity. But part of overcoming those is recharging when the sun comes out. And I thought it was like, I don't know if it was on Instagram or in a book or whatever, but I was reading and just there was this thing on plants, and it kind of caught my attention because, I've always noticed, like, when the sun comes out, the plants, I don't know if you remember that in grade school, they lean towards the sun, right? Yeah. They lean in. And I always thought that was interesting. But I was just reading this thing that, when they're leaning towards the sun, they're pulling in energy. And what they're doing is they store it. And I thought it was interesting how they're storing the energy. So when night comes, they survive it. And I thought that was brilliant compared to like how God works, right? And then there was one of my favorite sermons from Pastor Mike Kai of Inspired Church, Hawaii, was talking about when Jesus went to the mountaintop to see the Father and spend some alone time. And Peter and a couple of his disciple buddies snuck up there and wanted to join, and just so happened to burst into a glory meeting where he was talking to, Jesus was having a meeting with Moses and Elijah, but they were in their glory already. So I can imagine it was like, and Pastor Mike complained shared it like a mountaintop high. It was like, kind of moment. And so they set up their tents, and they told Jesus, let's just stay here, man. Why would we go anywhere else? And God came and said, behold my son. And so this is my son. And so that was the revelation moment for Peter and them to see, the Father actually put his voice and show Jesus briefly in his glory. But where they went after that was back down into the valley to feed 5,000 people. And I thought, that's kind of like how life is. The cycle of life is when you go through a storm, you go through an adversity, when we go through the nights, we do wake up in the morning afresh, right? All things new joys. The past is gone. The future's not here. We're here in the present. We get an opportunity to be like those plants, lean into the sun. Now we're talking the sun, builder of all things, lean into him and regain energy and regain inspiration, regain, motivation or healing even, and store that power. So when we do go back into the valley, we're ready, for what life brings. And so I just thought the plants were interesting on how they operate and how God created them, and know that we are the same emotionally and spiritually and physically. Like when we go through these hard things, you need time to, take all that good, energy, good spiritual message that we get at church. That's why it's good always to keep feeding your spirit, because we need that. So when we do go through these valleys, we're prepared and ready and not weak, And so the sun is very important, very important. You can't just talk about all the battles without talking about, hey, this is where I store my energy, like the plant.
Yeah.